on a cloudy Thursday evening in Lagos. While the rest of the city argued with traffic and generators hummed like restless insects, Amara sat in her small but vibrant studio, brushing out a client's wig and humming softly to herself. She didn't know it yet, but this would be the last normal evening of her life. Her studio was her sanctuary, bright ring lights, shelves filled with hair products, mannequin heads lined like silent spectators. The air carried the warm smell of hairspray mixed with coconut oil. She had worked hard to build this place, one client at a time, one transformation at a time. And recently, her growth had been explosive. Her Instagram following was shooting up. Celebrities had begun noticing her work, and bookings were spilling into the next month. Success was finally making sense. That night, as she posted a before and after video on Instagram, a notification popped up. "Hi Queen, we'd like to invite you as our lead stylist for a luxury beauty retreat in Mauritius." Attached was a glossy digital brochure, high-end models, ocean view villas, white sand beaches, and a panel of international beauty experts. The event looked every inch professional. The brand behind it appeared legitimate, with a website full of polished images and testimonies from influencers. Amara blinked at the message, stunned. Mauritius? Luxury? Lead stylist? She opened the brochure again, scrolling slowly. Everything looked too good to be true, and that was exactly why she double-checked every detail. She clicked the website, scrolled through their blog posts, viewed the retreat lineup, and checked the dates. Still no red flags. Then she checked their Instagram page. Over 40K followers. A clean, consistent feed. Posts about wellness, beauty, global retreats, and events. Comments from past attendees praising the experience. To her, it looked like the breakthrough she had prayed for. Her best friend, Hannah, was the one who answered her panicked voice note. "Babes, calm down," Hannah laughed. "It looks legit, nah. And even if it's not 100%, at least it's not like those ones that will be telling you to come to one abandoned hotel in Lekki." Amara laughed too, loosening her shoulders. Hannah had a way of making everything feel manageable. Later that night, the retreat coordinator, a woman with a soft, elegant voice who introduced herself as Madame Celine, called her directly. "Amara, we've been watching your work for a while," she said gently. "A number of international clients are requesting to meet you. We would love you to join us. All expenses on us. Flight, accommodation, feeding, everything. You deserve this space." Her words felt like sunlight across Amara's chest. No one had said "you deserve this" to her in a long time. By the time the call ended, she was shaking, excited, emotional, overwhelmed. This wasn't just a job. It was a door. Over the next 72 hours, preparations moved fast. The organizers sent her flight itinerary, a digital contract, and a schedule for the 3-day retreat. Everything looked polished and corporate. Her phone buzzed nonstop. "Hannah, make sure you pack sunscreen," her sisters. "Take pictures for SO." Her mother, "Pray before you travel. Anoint your head." Clients, "Congratulations, Queen." Followers, "You deserve it." Across all the excitement, one tiny message slipped through the cracks. A small blue tick appeared next to the last email from the organizers. The signature didn't match the previous ones. But Amara brushed that aside. She didn't want fear now, not when she had worked so hard to reach this moment. Her room was scattered with clothes, hair tools, makeup kits, and 3 different pairs of sunglasses. She packed and repacked, making sure everything was perfect. Hannah arrived late in the evening to help her pick outfits. "You're living the soft life now," Hannah joked, tossing clothes into the suitcase. "Big girl." Amara smiled, but there was a small hesitation in her eyes. "Do you think it's really safe?" Hannah stopped moving and looked at her. "Babe, listen. You've been praying for open doors. This is one. Grab it. Make connections. Build your brand. God is with you." Amara nodded slowly. "Yes, God is with me." She didn't know those words would echo in her mind for the last time. At Murtala Muhammad Airport, the morning air smelled of coffee, exhaust fumes, and rushing travelers. Amara wore a soft beige jumpsuit, clean makeup, and her favorite wig, a flawless 24-inch bone straight. She wheeled her suitcase through the terminal with calm confidence. She looked like a young woman stepping into destiny. She took a selfie at the boarding gate. New levels. God did. Her final Instagram post. People around her were loud, laughing, arguing with staff. But Amara stood quietly, absorbing the moment. She looked around and smiled. From here to the world, she whispered to herself. Her boarding group was called. She walked through the tunnel, heart fluttering with joy. She sent Hannah one last message. I'm boarding now. Pray for me. Hannah replied instantly. Already did. Come back with stories. Amara smiled as she stepped onto the plane. The air inside smelled like fresh fabric and cold ventilation. She settled in, buckled her seatbelt, and closed her eyes. Finally, the dream was unfolding. The aircraft engine roared. The runway blurred. The plane lifted. Amara looked out of the small oval window as the city fell away beneath her. Clouds opened like a path before her. She had no idea that the invitation she accepted with joy would lead her straight into a trap designed long before she clicked accept. Her dream wasn't taking flight. Her danger was. The ride from the airport should have been a peaceful drive through one of the most beautiful islands in the world. Mauritius, with its bright skies, palm-lined highways, and postcard-perfect coastline, is the kind of place people dream of visiting. But inside the black SUV, the air did not feel like paradise. It felt like a sealed box. Amara sat upright, her hands resting on her lap, trying to slow her breathing. The man called Marco drove in complete silence, his eyes never leaving the road. He didn't play music. He didn't ask if she was comfortable. He didn't even introduce himself further. Every 10 minutes, he glanced at her through the rearview mirror, not with curiosity, but with evaluation, like he was checking if she was still where she should be. Outside, the sun was brilliant. Inside, the silence was sharp. Excuse me, Amara finally said, breaking the tension. Are we heading to the hotel now? I was told I'd be staying at the Coral Crest Resort. Marco didn't answer immediately. He switched lanes, overtook a bus, and then said almost casually, there is a change in schedule. We are going to the private villa first. What villa? I wasn't told about that. It's where the VIP guests are staying. His tone suggested he wouldn't repeat himself. Something about the way he spoke felt rehearsed, like he had memorized a script. Amara swallowed hard. She reached into her bag and pretended to adjust something, but really she was checking her phone. Still no network. For a brief moment, she wondered if her SIM card was malfunctioning. But then she noticed that even the car's GPS unit was turned off. She was completely cut off. A knot tightened in her chest. 30 minutes later, the SUV turned onto a narrower road lined with tall sugarcane plantations. The stalks swayed in the wind like a whispering crowd watching her pass. Something felt wrong, terribly wrong. Just when the panic threatened to show on her face, the road widened and revealed a beautiful, secluded estate with stone walls, flowering trees, and a long driveway. It looked like a luxury retreat, at least on the outside. The security guards lifted the gate without checking anything, as if they already knew who was inside. Marco parked near a large villa with cream-colored walls and a wraparound balcony. It looked serene, peaceful, almost heavenly. But the calm did nothing to ease her fear. This is where you will meet Madame Celine, he said, stepping out of the car. At the mention of Celine, some of her fear faded. The woman had been the warm, elegant voice behind the entire arrangement. Meeting her might clear the confusion. As Amara stepped out of the vehicle, she adjusted her sunglasses and inhaled deeply, trying to regain composure. She followed Marco inside. The villa interior was immaculate, decorated with white marble floors, golden lighting, and expensive art pieces. It smelled of vanilla and sea breeze. Everything looked picture perfect. Too perfect. They reached a large living area with floor-to-ceiling windows facing the ocean. The sunlight poured in, almost blinding. Please sit, Marco said. She will be here soon. He walked out of the room without another word. The silence that followed was thick. Amara's heartbeat sounded louder in her ears. She sat down in one of the plush chairs, her eyes scanning the room for cameras or other people. or anything that made sense of what she was experiencing. A minute passed, then 5, then 10. Finally, a soft click echoed from the hallway. High heels, slow steps, rhythmic, confident. Madame Celine walked into the room. She looked exactly like her voice, tall, elegant, poised, wearing a long white dress that flowed behind her like water. Her hair was perfectly styled, her makeup subtle but flawless. She moved like someone who belonged in expensive galleries. "Amara," she said warmly, opening her arms slightly. "Welcome." Relief washed over the young artist. She stood, forcing a smile. "Thank you. I wasn't expecting the change of plans." Celine's smile deepened. "I apologize. Things evolved faster than anticipated. You are in high demand here, and our VIP clients insisted on meeting you personally. We want to discuss your styling schedule and finalize your shoot concepts." The explanation sounded reasonable, almost soothing, but something in Celine's eyes didn't match her words. They were deep, dark, unreadable, like she was observing a specimen rather than greeting a guest. Still, Amara followed her to the balcony. The ocean breeze hit her face, and for a moment she relaxed. Maybe she was overthinking. Maybe it truly was a luxury job with unusual arrangements. Celine sat across from her at a small table with fruit and bottled water. She poured herself a drink, then handed another to Amara. "Hydrate, my dear. You must be tired from a flight." Amara took the bottle, but didn't open it immediately. She asked about the event, the clients, the retreat schedule, the photo shoot. Celine answered everything with the ease of a seasoned host. But suddenly, mid-conversation, Amara's head grew heavy. Not tired, not dizzy, heavy. Her vision blurred, like someone had smeared grease across her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly, and she blinked rapidly, trying to focus on Celine's face. "Are you all right?" Celine asked, her voice too calm. I don't," Amara stuttered, placing a hand on the table to steady herself. Her throat tightened, her pulse accelerating as her body began to betray her. Celine's expression didn't change. She watched her with that same elegant, unreadable calm. Panic hit Amara like a wave. She stood abruptly, knocking over the chair. Her legs buckled. The room tilted. Her breathing grew shallow. She tried to speak, but all that came out was a broken whisper. Celine stood slowly, the white dress swaying around her ankles. "Don't be afraid," she said softly. "It happens quickly." Amara collapsed onto the marble floor. Her last conscious sensation was the cold stone against her cheek, and the faint sight of Celine standing over her, serene, composed, untouched by the chaos unfolding beneath her. Within minutes, before an ambulance could be called, before her mother could be alerted, before her Instagram followers noticed her silence, Amara was gone, just hours after landing in paradise. Her dream trip had turned into a fatal trap, and the story was only beginning. For most people in Mauritius, that Sunday afternoon was ordinary. The waves were calm, the beaches filled with tourists, and shops bustled with activity. But inside the secluded villa, where Amara's body lay motionless, a different kind of stillness settled, one heavy enough to suffocate. When emergency responders finally arrived, they were met with a scene that looked almost staged. Amara was found on the pristine marble floor of the balcony, her body positioned neatly, hands at her sides, eyes closed, as though she had simply fallen asleep. There were no overturned tables, no signs of a struggle, no broken glass, nothing to suggest panic or violence. If you didn't know better, you would think she fainted. If you looked closer, you would sense something was terribly off. Madame Celine greeted the first responders with a perfect performance, tears in her eyes, trembling hands, a voice breaking at all the right places. She collapsed, she said, wiping her face. "We were talking about the photo shoot." She stood up suddenly, and she fell. I called immediately. "I don't understand what happened." Her acting was flawless. Too flawless. Authorities initially treated the case as a sudden medical episode, a phrase used far too often when death appears calm, but questions lurk beneath the surface. Amara's body was transported to a local medical facility while the villa staff gave statements. Not long after, her phone lit up for the first time in hours, network restored, and the messages poured in. Dozens from her mother, more from Hannah, hundreds of comments from followers asking if she had landed safely. But the person who now had her phone wasn't Amara. It was Marco. Minutes later, the phone was switched off entirely. Back in Nigeria, her family's day shattered when they received a call from an unknown number. A cold, official voice delivered the news. Your daughter collapsed shortly after arrival. We are deeply sorry for your loss. The room spun. Her mother dropped the phone. Her sister screamed. Hannah fainted. None of them believed it. Not for a second. Amara was young, healthy, full of energy. She didn't drink heavily, didn't take drugs, had no existing medical condition. A sudden collapse made no sense, not logically, not medically, not spiritually. Her family immediately pushed the Nigerian embassy to intervene. They demanded a proper autopsy, not the rushed certificate that claimed possible cardiac arrest. Possible. The word alone was suspicious. Meanwhile, online, news of her death spread like wildfire. Her last Instagram post, New Levels, God did, became a digital shrine. Thousands of strangers mourned, but beneath the mourning were sharp questions. Who invited her? Why was she in a private villa? Why was no official representative with her? What really happened? Hannah, devastated but determined, brought forward her concerns about the retreat's website, the mismatched signatures, and the strange behavior of the organizers before the trip. Every detail she provided added fuel to the rising suspicion. Nigeria's pressure grew, Mauritius responded, and finally, an independent autopsy was approved. That was when the truth began to unravel. The second autopsy revealed what everyone feared. Amara didn't die of cardiac arrest. She didn't faint. She didn't suffer a simple collapse. There were traces of toxic compounds in her bloodstream, nearly undetectable, but real. The kind used in surreptitious poisoning. The kind that left little external evidence. The kind slipped into drinks. Suddenly, the hydration bottle Celine offered her took on a new, sinister meaning. But even more chilling was what investigators discovered next. There was no record of a luxury retreat happening anywhere on the island. No sponsors, no guests, no international investors, no venue reservations, no planning documents. The entire event, every page, every email, every contract, was fabricated. And the woman calling herself Madame Celine? Not a single record of her existed in the official business registry. Her name was a ghost. The Villa Amara was taken to wasn't a resort property. It was privately rented under a shell company, leased only for 10 days surrounding Amara's visit. The staff wasn't hotel staff. They were hired for the week, paid in cash, with fake identity details. Marco, the liaison who picked her up, had already vanished. His phone number was untraceable. His car rental contract showed a fake passport ID. His fingerprints in the SUV matched. No one in any international database. In other words, they planned this. Every detail, months in advance. Investigators dug deeper into Amara's recent life. That was when her family remembered something. Something that seemed small before, but now looked dangerously relevant. 3 weeks before the trip, Amara had complained about a celebrity client who became obsessively attached to her. Not romantically, possessively. He tried to control her schedule. He wanted exclusivity. He got upset when she worked with other talent. He offered her outrageous sums of money to travel with him. She refused. And then, oddly, her Instagram account was targeted by anonymous reports. Some clients received strange emails claiming she was unprofessional. She told Hannah someone might be trying to ruin her career, but she didn't know who. Now, investigators had a direction, and what they uncovered was chilling. That same celebrity client had direct connections to the very shell company used to rent the Mauritius villa. He also had ties to offshore accounts that made multiple payments labeled under luxury logistics. He left the country 2 days before Amara arrived. He returned to Nigeria 1 day after she died. Coincidence? The investigators didn't think so. A breakthrough came when authorities accessed deleted files from the retreat's fake website. Buried deep in the recovery logs were drafts of messages, templates, and scripts. Scripts for invitations, scripts for phone calls, scripts for emergencies, scripts for responding to families. But one file stood out, labeled simply, Project AN. Inside were photos of Amara, screenshots of her posts, flight schedules, notes about her routines, preferences, and vulnerabilities. Someone had studied her, watched her, planned for her. She wasn't chosen randomly. She was targeted, deliberately, precisely, professionally. The investigation revealed a monstrous truth. The dream trip had never been a dream. The luxury experience had never been real. The retreat was a manufactured trap. The villa was a controlled environment. The poisoning was intentional. The actors were professional. The mastermind was wealthy, connected, and protected. And Amara, she was never meant to return home. Her death was not a sudden collapse. It was a carefully executed operation, one designed to look clean, quick, and untraceable. But even in its perfection, it left cracks. Cracks that exposed a dark world where obsession, power, and money intertwined, and where a young woman's rising star became the very light that drew predators out of the shadows.